WLToys have had some fantastic RC cars over the years, including this, and this, and this. But lately we don't hear a lot from them, and when they do release something, it doesn't tend to be very good. If you go back about 5 years, WLToys used to be the #1 affordable RC brand, but in 2025 that's no longer the case. We very rarely see new releases from WLToys, and I think the market leaders now are MJX and Rolalo. So brand new from WLToys, this is their 244016, also known as the Vagrant Speedster. Apparently this will do 30 kilometers per hour, and on something this small, that is pretty quick. But is this really going to do that advertised speed? Because we all know what WLToys are like. They're full of empty promises. Now we all know WLToys like to copy everyone else, and in this instance they have copied Losi. This thing looks identical to the Micro B. Now if you haven't noticed it already, this thing has friction shocks, and yeah, the shocks on this really aren't great. Now when it comes to quality, well, it's pretty much your typical WLToys. The quality of their stuff is okay. It's not as good as the original cars that they're trying to replicate. Underneath it looks like we've got a carbon effect on the chassis. What is cool on this though is this does have proper hex hardware. Now taking a look at the rear, we've got metal dog bones. Now I've taken a closer look in there, and this thing has bushings, which is kind of annoying really, because I mean, come on, this isn't exactly a big buggy. The bearings would have been tiny. How much more money would they have cost? Again, it's just the usual WLToys corner cutting. Now we've seen this from WLToys so many times before. They just like to throw together a product, throw it out there, and hope that it sells and does well. Yeah, it's a shame really. Now I'll take that body off in a moment and we'll take a closer look underneath, but before I do want to talk about WLToys in general really, because they used to be pretty much the #1 budget / affordable RC brand. Obviously these days, well, we know that's Rolalo and MJX, but if you go back 5 or 6 years, they were pretty much at the top. So what happened to WLToys? Well, I think there's a combination of things that happened. They didn't listen to customers, they didn't listen to reviewers, they just kept throwing cars out there without really testing them and making sure that they were okay. And I think they just didn't innovate. You know, there was never anything new. They were just doing the clones of LC Racing and a couple other brands maybe, but we didn't really see anything else particularly innovative from WLToys. When you compare WLToys to the current market leaders like MJX and Rolalo, especially when it comes to affordable cars, they listen to customers, they give us what we want, they listen to reviewers, they innovate, and they also create their own designs. They're not copying anybody else. It's a combination of these things which has made them so popular, and of course WLToys just couldn't really keep up with that. Now with this little 244016, is this something we wanted? Is this something we needed? And is this something good enough to get WLToys back into the top 3 again? Yeah, I don't think it is. Now I've already seen some reviews out there, and I can appreciate a lot of people are being quite positive towards this little buggy. Of course it's a much more cheaper affordable option compared to the Losi version, but is it good enough to bring back WLToys from the dead? I don't think it is. Now some people may be thinking, why is this guy being so negative? Why can't he just say nice things about this? It's been so long since we've seen a WLToys release. Why can't you just be happy for a change? Now I'll tell you what would have made me happy, something completely new and something that Rolalo and MJX aren't doing. Maybe like a 1/8 scale truck, for example. I think if there was a 1/8 scale WLToys sat on my worktop here, I think the entire vibe of this video would have been completely different. But there's no way WLToys would have done something completely different. Remember, they don't listen to anyone. They just do what they want to do. So taking a closer look underneath, now of course this is brushed. They had to make this thing brushed to keep the price down, and there you can see the little brushed motor at the back. Of course this has a 2-in-1 ESC and receiver. Now what I really don't like on this is you have to remove a couple of screws to get this out the way so that you can get the battery out. I just find that a little bit pointless. Up at the front here we have the little servo. There's not really anything else to see. It's pretty basic in its design. So let's talk about price. How much does this little buggy cost? Well, you can pick this up for around £35, which is roughly $50. So it is quite a bit cheaper compared to the Micro B. So we know the quality is not going to be as good as the Micro B, and of course the performance isn't going to be as good either. Again, like I said earlier, this is just a little bit of a pointless release in my opinion. No one really asked for this, no one really wanted it. Are these going to be popular? I really don't think they are. Again, what I would have liked to have seen from WLToys is something completely different that Relalo and MJX aren't doing, and I think for me, that would have been a 1/8 scale truck. So in the box here we have the instruction manual, USB charger, some shock preload spacers, a cross wrench, screwdriver, finally the transmitter. Now this doesn't feel too bad actually, I've definitely come across worse. You do get a foam grip on the wheel. Finally up on top we have a speed switch, a DIY light button, which I think is if you want to add in your own LEDs after. There is a connector for that, so that should be quite simple. Obviously we've got steering trim and there's also adjustment there for the gyro. It looks like there's also a cruise control function, although I can't really see why you'd need that on this. So let's get this out and give it a run. Apparently this will do 30 kilometers per hour. I'm really interested to see if it actually does. So let's go and find out. So they say this will do around 30 kilometers per hour, which is around 18 miles per hour. Let me put this up to the high speed setting. Let's see if we can get 18 miles per hour out of this. So let's see if this really will do 18 miles per hour as claimed on the box, 30 kilometers per hour. Yeah, it doesn't feel like 18. Now this wouldn't be the first time WLToys have told us that their car will do way more speed than claimed. You know, we've seen it before. It's kind of a marketing trick that they use to get people to buy their cars because you think you're getting more for your money. But we worked it out very early on that they were using this trick. Yeah, it doesn't feel like 18. Now this has a gyro as well, and I'm glad it does because it would be really twitchy without that gyro. Right, let's see what we got on the included battery. I don't think we're going to see 18, but you never know. So let's hit read. So 12 miles per hour is all it does. So we know it doesn't do the claimed speed on the box. I kind of knew that was going to be the case anyway. I wonder how this thing's going to perform off-road. So how does this little WLToys perform off-road? Well, not great actually. It's very bouncy. It's probably not the sort of surface you want to be running on. You know, you want to be running on flat surfaces really, more so than this. Realistically, how capable is something like this going to be? It's probably okay if you're using it indoors, but testing it out over here, you can see just how useless it is. I really don't know what WLToys were thinking with this. It's not exactly something everybody wanted, and it's not going to be competition for the other big brands out there, with the other big affordable brands like Relalo and MJX. When you see what they're producing, yeah, this really doesn't even come close. And considering WLToys is kind of WL dead, I think they needed to produce something which was going to be appealing to a very wide audience. Something larger, I think, as well, because there's a real need for larger cars, larger affordable cars at the moment. We're seeing so many minis entering the market, you know, it's oversaturated. Yeah, I think this is a little bit of a pointless release once again from WLToys. It's cheap and it's all right for a kid, I suppose, but is it good enough, you know, for the brand to make a massive comeback? Yeah, I don't think so. And I know I've said that quite a bit in this video, and I don't want to be negative towards WLToys, but you have to speak the truth and you have to accept it for what it is. So there we go then, brand new from WLToys, their latest 1/24 scale entry. So what we have here then is something that nobody really wanted, nobody really needs, and it's not even a very good alternative to what it's trying to copy. WLToys, you used to be one of the best. Now look, the only good thing about this little buggy is it's cheap. I think it's around £35 for us here in the UK. I'll stick the dollars conversion on the screen as well. But look, I have struggled with today's video because again, I just think it's a little bit pointless from WLToys. A company that's quite clearly dying should have produced something that would be appealing, something that would take on the rivals like MJX and Relalo. I don't think this was the way to go. And look, I really don't want to be too negative to WLToys, but I'm left with no choice. If this was something new and a quality item sat in front of me, which was good enough to take on MJX and Rolalo, well, I think it'd be the opposite. I think I'd be really happy. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions on this little buggy in the comment section. Do you think WLToys are on their way out? Would you buy WLToys in 2025? If anything, it's actually really sad to see the state of WLToys these days. They used to be the #1 budget RC brand, and now this is the best that we're getting from those guys. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Cheers for watching. See you on the next one. Take care.